So I'm Lukas. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Weights and Biases. I don't think you're exactly our audience, but are there any Weights and Biases users in the crowd? Anyone? Yes. All right. Appreciate you. So we set out to build the best developer tools for AI, and I feel like this might be some kind of like caricature of a startup these days, right? Developer tools got hot. AI obviously got incredibly hot. But when we did it, developer tools seemed like a small market when we were setting out, and AI seemed like kind of a science project. This is only 7 or 8 years ago. But we really wanted to support AI. We felt like that's really humanity's last project. And we wanted to specifically do it by supporting the developers out there that were building these AI models and deploying them. And ClickHouse has been a really integral part of our journey, and we really appreciate them. We've expanded to over 1,000+ enterprises, tons of overlap with ClickHouse's customer base. When we started, we thought, we'll just do multi-tenant SaaS, and we learned along the way that we needed basically every deployment type. So I think we use all of ClickHouse's deployment types, I believe. And I thought actually BYOC was some crazy thing that our marketing team came up with, but I guess it was you guys that came up with BYOC. Love it. So we definitely use BYOC. But look, I want to tell you about what we do for all these customers briefly. And I think if you step way back, the issue that we were trying to solve is that AI is easy to demo and really hard to productionize. And now I think like any engineer, especially infrastructure engineers, understand that there's kind of like in any project, you got your first 90%, your second 90%, and your third 90%, right? We all have experienced that in our day-to-day lives. But somehow with AI, it's like even worse. Like I feel like there's a first 90%, second 90%, third 90%. Even then, you're like far, far, far from done. Meanwhile, your CEOs look at this like, hey, this seems done. What's the problem? Why isn't this shift, right? And I think there's something about AI that just makes this already challenging problem in engineering even far worse. And I think if you step back, it comes from the fact that when you're developing software, your code is really your IP, right? All the things that you do, you can kind of walk through them and test them, or almost all the things that you do. When you're developing AI, you don't actually get to touch the code that runs, right? You're basically building on this uncertain platform where most of what you do is actually not building, it's experimenting. You have to try lots of different things and see what happens. And then maybe OpenAI releases a new model quietly with exactly the same name, and all your stuff breaks, right? That's a daily occurrence in AI, right? The continuous integration tests in AI never have a 100% pass rate, right? You have to kind of look at what's working and what's not working and decide if you want to deploy the new model. So this is what we wanted to help with. And actually, it's funny. I think we help. I would almost describe what Weights and Biases is as real-time analytics and observability for AI. So I guess it's no surprise that we like the ClickHouse product. I don't even know what category you'd ideally put us in. We have these two products, Weave and Models. Models is a product for people that are building new AI models, like an OpenAI or an Anthropic or a Meta, or really anyone that wants to fine-tune or do reinforcement learning to modify the actual models themselves. Weave is our newer product, which is for people that want to run those models, which these days is almost any company in the world. And what we do here is we help people see if their model's working or see if their agentic workflow is working. And what that means is you need to, first of all, see quickly overall if it's working, and then also zoom into individual cases and try to debug them. That is the workflow. And it's this iteration speed, which is the core ROI for our customers. How fast can you try something and see if it's working, right? That is the unit of work when you're in AI. It's the experiment time and the feedback time. And so, first of all, people need to be able to evaluate what's going on. So we need to be able to produce these dashboards here quickly and custom dashboards for whatever someone's working on. And these evaluation metrics are constantly changing, constantly getting more complicated. With agents, they're exploding to volumes that we never anticipated. And at the same time, you need to be able to zoom in to individual examples and see what's going on, right? That's the fundamental workflow that we couldn't do without ClickHouse. Finally, you need to be able to evaluate new LLMs that come on board, right? Because every day, DeepSeek comes out, Anthropic launches a new model, OpenAI launches a new model. You need to be able to constantly do this and back test it on the data that you have. and you need to be able to monitor in production, right? So you do tests at kind of volumes of megabytes or gigabytes, and then you're monitoring production at volumes that are more like terabytes. So that's what our customers need to do. We need to help them collaborate securely. We need to help them build guardrails to protect their brand, to make sure that they don't, end up in the New York Times because someone, asked them a question and they got a weird result. This can happen in so many different ways that you can't anticipate. But fundamentally, no one would use us if you couldn't get started easily with 3 lines of code. So there's so many tools out there to try. We think a huge fraction of our success is in the ease of getting started and actually making it possible to get a meaningful use case going with 3 lines of code. You engineers will totally understand this. There's a huge amount of work that goes into that. So look, I'd love to tell you more about what we do, and we'll be around throughout the day. But I also wanted to say that we feel a real passion for ClickHouse in our company. So there's practical ROI benefits that I can tell you about. I mean, this product that we made would really not work without a database like ClickHouse, right? Because we have to store, extremely high volume trace data. We need to be able to surface analytics to our users in real time, and also let them, kind of zoom in and do, fast arbitrary queries over billions of rows. So that's critical for us, and this is the only way we're able to do it. There's also a real cost component for us. So ClickHouse is by far the most effective, basically the cheapest offering. What that means for us is that we're able to offer this to users in ways we wouldn't otherwise be able to do it. Like, it's important for us to have a big free tier for our startup customers that don't get funding yet, to kind of get them going. It's important for us to let people try it. This would not be possible without the pricing that ClickHouse allows us to do it at. I'll also say, just as someone I've spent my career making developer tools, and I really love making developer tools. I was thinking a few years about why I like it. I think it actually, if you'll bear with me for a second, it goes back to my grandfather, who was a pattern maker and a machinist, and spent a lot of time in his shop when I was little. And he made these patterns that he'd give to other builders to build casts out of them and make things. And he was so proud of his work because, for his perspective, what he would tell me when I was an impressionable 6-year-old in his shop, he'd say, look, I'm building tools for other makers, right? And if I do a bad job, they're really going to notice. And if I do a little bit better job, if I make my patterns like 1% better, then everything made off of those patterns is going to be better. And that really made a big impression on me. Like, wow, that's so cool to build things for other makers, right? Because if you can, if ClickHouse or Weights and Biases can make all their customers like 5% more effective, that's such a profound impact on the world. And I think there's also a connection that we all as makers have with our tools that's kind of deeper than you'd sort of rationally expect from the ROI. Like, when I look at Weights and Biases users, they like love us in this way that I feel so proud of, a special way, the same way that, you might feel about having a good hammer, a good screwdriver, right? You really want a good one, And I think I feel the same way about ClickHouse, where it's like, it's not just the metrics that come out, it's like a sense of quality and attention to detail. It's the same way that, like, right away ClickHouse got in our Slack channel when we started to work with them, like humbly, like asking us questions about our use case and like helping us make it work, the same way that we aspire to work with our users. So we really love ClickHouse at Weights and Biases, and it's an honor to be here. Hope to meet you all throughout the day.